quite a few returning veterans, returning starters on this front five, but there's some new eyes on them now with the new staff, new offense. Can we expect some shuffling of guys around, or are guards still guards and tackles still tackles and so forth?
Well, for the most part, some of the more familiar guys will probably be where they are. I mean, Fadarian Lowe is going to be a pretty big time left tackle, and Doug Kramer's our center and things of that nature. Now, there's going to be open competition at some of those guard spots. So there's a lot of guys that have really stepped up. Been very, very pleased with Julian Pearl, where he is. He's taking reps right now, where Palcho normally would be, but he's solidifying himself as a guy that we need to continue to bring along, but could be a very good player for us. So the best five will play wherever that is. And there's going to be some guys that'll move around a little bit, to get us those best five. And we do cross-train a lot of our guys. It does help with their versatility. It helps with the next level and things of that nature. But we want to be able to put the best five on the field. So for the most part, I think the roster will remain maybe consistent with their positions or where they're listed. But if we feel like a guy can get in and get movement, our guard position is incredibly important to the way we block things. So we need maulers up there. We need guys that can get after people and change the line of scrimmage. And if a guy that's playing outside can do that, then that's where we'll put him. So to answer your question, I think there's probably that's open. We're open for that, but at the same time, we're going to get great at where they are too.
Kendrick Green's a pretty good football player. He's on the way to the NFL. Who's battling for that left guard position that he vacated?
Well, we've kind of got a round robin deal that's open competition there. Blake Jarosati's a guy that if you're out to practice was there the first couple of days. Jordan Slaughter is going to be in the mix for the guard spot. Obviously, Verge Brown's a returning guy, but Alex Pilstrom will be competing for some jobs too in the guard spot room or the guard room. So right now it's way too early to name a starting depth, of course, but I do like some things I'm seeing out of some guys, and it is a new technique. There's some new technique changes up front that we're going to do with our double teams and how we get our combinations and the vertical push, the vertical movement that we get. So kind of those four right now, probably taking the majority of the reps with the first two groups. Certainly some young guys we need to try to bring along and develop too, but I'd say those four, and then we'll see where we do with Julian Pearl. We might move him in from time to time and try to get our best five up there playing consistently.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Hey Bart, I'm just wondering, you kind of talked about the experience that you have back on the line. What has that been like for you coming in as a new coach with some guys that, understand a lot of the basics of the position, having played for a number of years? But what's that been like from a coaching perspective to kind of come in and, teach this new philosophy that you have?
Sure. Well, I think one of the big things with that experience gives you is the fact that they've heard these terms before. They've heard some of the nuances of the position, so they know what it means to take a deep replacement step. They know what a vertical set is. They know some of the vocabulary. Certainly, some of the calls and those things are different. There's always going to be some learning and some memorization at certain spots, but I think just them having an understanding of the position on a very generic level, right, and a very, very base level, just gives you a foundation to build off of. So I can pull the first group aside and work, especially a guy like Lowe or Doug that have been through quite a bit, and two different coaches, right? They understand, how this process needs to happen, how that transition needs to happen, how they can adapt to a new coach, and it's going to help them next year when they get a chance to go to the NFL too. So I think that sort of experience gives you is some maturity in that transition, and I think that's been a big help as we move into our second week of spring practice, where we are throwing some things at them. We've slowed down a little bit on the install to get some of the technique stuff perfect, but certainly have respected and appreciated the way those guys have come out to practice and what they come to learn. I walk in my meeting, they're prepared. They're writing things down. It sounds like a little thing, but that's the difference. That's the difference between winning and losing is the details, right? And that's what a veteran group like this, a mature group like this gives you. So that's probably been the thing I've been most pleased with.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, I'm sure when you came in, you watched a fair bit of film on the guys that had film from last year. after this first week of practice, are there any guys who didn't have film who you kind of got to see out there for the first time that maybe impressed you a little bit?
Yeah, I think just some of those younger guys. I know there were so many injuries and things that popped up and COVID things that popped up that you did get a chance to see some spot play here and there. You know, Pilstrom played against Purdue and Pearl got in there, you know, after in that Rutgers game and stuff like that. But you never got to see maybe the consistency or how they adapt throughout a course of preparation, a week of preparation. So I think just going through that with some of these guys that didn't get a ton of experience has been good. Just knowing how they work day in and day out, how they can handle going from a meeting to practice, going back to a meeting, making adjustments on the fly. I think that's the stuff I've been probably the most either pleased with or glad to see is their ability to adjust and take coaching on the run, on the fly, and things of that nature. You can't see on film how they understand and learn, you know, their aptitude, things like that, and the improvements that they're taking. You know, we're watching film, you're watching a screen, and you have no idea what was being taught or what was told them, you know, on this particular play. You're just kind of watching their mobility, right? Their movements and their athleticism. So being able to coach them, being able to take them, give them information, see them translate that to the field, then train it, right? And I think that's a huge advantage that now that I get to see with these guys. So been impressed with Julian, of course, been impressed with Federian, Doug, Girasati. There's a lot of young guys. Josh Plor he's put him at center the other day. He had a great play, picked up a wide rush on a very difficult protection. So lots of little things, little improvements. And that's the thing we ask for. We want them to get better every day. If you can, like, you know, Coach always talks about stacking days. If we can stack days, right, and build that foundation from the ground up, a strong foundation, you're going to have a lot of success. And if you get a little bit better tomorrow and the next day and the next day, how good are you going to be in a week? How good are you going to be next August or in 2 years? So that's the focal point right now, is getting better at those little things on a daily basis. And I think that's true, Robert, for everybody, you know, not just guys that played last year.
Thanks.
Hey, Bart, good to see you. You've mentioned Alex Topchesky a few times, and I know when Brett has talked to us, he's talked about the guys who are rehab from injuries or what have you. They kind of do their own workouts during the spring, and then they come out and watch the healthier guys and what they're doing. What impact has Alex been able to have on the offensive line and what you're trying to do right now, even while he's out injured?
I think just having him around as a presence. I mean, he is one of these veteran guys that has some maturity, has experience. You love his mentality. I mean, if you left it up to him, he'd be out there. He'd play on half a knee if he could, you know, and that's the mentality you want in that room, right? I mean, you guys all met me when on the early Zooms and things. That's the exact mentality we're bringing here, is that toughness, that physical nature. He approaches training like that, right? He's going to rip the bike apart in the training room, and that's what he brings. Certainly, just in presence alone out there. Love the demeanor. I think he's a smart player and learning. I think that helping him grow and develop, learning the offense, because there is new things that are taught, right? There's new techniques and philosophies, but the way our combinations are, right? The way our tackles are setting this year, things of that nature are going to be different. The coaching points are different. So it just gives him a chance also to hear kind of what we're doing and see the practice expectations. So I think it works twofold. The guys have one of their leaders and one of their brothers out there with them. And he's learning also at the same time.
Thank you, Bart.
Hey, Bart, you mentioned Julian Pearl a couple of times here. He got a lot of playing time when Alex went out, and he impressed the previous staff too. So what's impressed you about him and your first good look at him?
He's incredibly athletic. And I think that's maybe an obvious one. Everybody that knows him or watched him play growing up, recruiting, all that kind of thing, but he can bend very well. The thing that he's been very good at is adapting to some of the new techniques, the new steps, the new things that we teach, which are not easy to do, right? I mean, that's why so few people do them. They're challenging, but he's able to do that and then get vertical movement. You know, a lot of guys can take these steps and then it gets strung down the line of scrimmage. If you watch a guy like a Vidarian Lowe or Julian Pearl, and they do those things, they can take those steps and have the power now to get movement through the strike, right? They make contact and then they can generate vertical power, vertical movement. That's a very rare skill in offensive line play. And so being able to see some of that, his fluidity, the way how he moves, the way he's able to adapt to a new offense in such a short amount of time. Been pleased with some of his stuff in the run game. We got a long way to go in protections and things of that nature, but those tackles in the run game have been very, very impressive for me early on.
Thanks, Bart.
Hey, Bart, good to see you. I'm just wondering, with all the super seniors that you have, how does this affect the timeline of like the younger guys and not having to worry about finding 5 guys maybe who don't have a lot of college experience? How are you able to develop them more in a longer term here?
Well, that's the beauty of spring football, right? Spring training and getting guys reps and working them in, with veteran guys. I think that's a huge focal point moving forward, especially for our group. We got to get our top guys ready to play, but at the same time, that's what spring is developing, right? Developing young talent, developing guys that haven't had a lot of playing time and putting them in positions that do stress them, that do tax them. How do they respond to those things? How do they adapt to the training and understand what it means to be in a real college weight program? We're in a real physical, hard-nosed college practice, right? All those things, how going through pods or Illini drill or one-on-ones or some of these crossovers with the D-line and being able to compete on a daily basis, not just, my 5 reps during team practice, right? During team. I mean, every time you take the field, you put your hand on the ground, you know you're going to win, right? It's a mentality that's created through the training, through their preparation. And I think just a young guy going through a spring training, seeing a veteran group maybe go through that same thing, it just cements, that ethos within the room that this is what I need to do to compete and win and be great in the Big Ten and at this program. So I think just from a mental standpoint, the spring football is great for that. Obviously, they're getting the coaching maybe that they wouldn't get during the season when they're on scout team or whatever it is. They're getting those reps. So this is a critical time of year. I think we've all been talking about that for the last 3 months. This is a critical time of year for us as a program for those developmental reasons.
And if I could quickly, we've heard you mention Vidarian Lowe a few times, and Bielema mentioned him. What's been impressive about him in the short time that you guys have had together?
His ability to move up the field. I mean, he's able to set very, very well, very fluid with his sets. He does take coaching very well. I mean, sometimes that's hard for a guy that maybe is cemented in his ways for 4 or 5 years, but he takes coaching very well. He improves on those things. And then his ability to get the backside cut off, his ability to generate movement. A lot of times you get a very athletic tackle and he can move his feet well, but he doesn't have the power needed to generate movement, right? Vidarian has those things. So, and he's showing that early on going against our top guys, right? Like Owen and Isaiah. And I love the way he competes. I think he's taken a strong leadership role, as has Kramer, as has Jarosati, as has some of those guys that you would expect that from. So, been very, very pleased maybe with where he's at in terms of the progression. But we have, again, him too, we have a long way to go, right? As a unit and for where I think we could be for our potential.
Thanks, Bart.
Yep.
Hi, Coach. Doug Kramer spoke with us last week, and he kind of mentioned how you were able to keep the O-line pride monster around and that kind of stuff, but you also added some things. What kind of went into that process, and what exactly does O-line pride mean, I guess, for you?
Well, that's a great question. And that, anytime you take over a unit that has some tradition, that has things that they care about, right? You want to be able to adapt to some of those things, but it has to mean something, right? It has to be ingrained in every member of the team. It has to be something that we all believe in. And it's not just a t-shirt. It's not a punchline. It's not a break at the end of practice. It has to stand for something. And so we talk in our room all the time about, what we are, right? And what we want to be. And I think the last time I spoke with you guys, we're talking about the meanest and the toughest and the nastiest guys on the field, but it goes deeper than that, right? It's a brotherhood. It's a foundation that's forged through the hardship of playing this position. It's forged through those late nights where, you got early practice in the morning, the hard workouts, right? The inside drill going right into another period of team in Indy and getting all these reps. I mean, it's all the struggles that you go through, but you're going through with the guy next to you. And nobody practices that way. Nobody plays that way. And so when the preparation is hard, the test comes easy. So that's one big part of it, right? But just having the trust and the accountability in that room, right? I will not let you down. Okay, that's a big part of it. You can trust me, and I can trust them. And and all that goes into those things, right? Fighting for the guy next to you. And then we've got a poster in our room, and sometime when COVID's available, maybe we'll release that, but or not constricting us, we'll release that. But there's a laundry list of key points that what that means and what O-line pride really is, right? It's taking pride and you're doing a job that nobody else has the ability or the desire to do, right? And that's where winners are, deep down, where nobody else wants to go. And that's what we believe, and that's what we fight for, and that's what we train for. And if you got all 5 guys on that unit part of something that's greater than themselves, right, you can take a lot of pride in that. And that's really what O-line pride is, right? You're doing something that nobody else can. And you're doing it physically, you're doing it nasty, and you're changing the game that way. So that's what that means.
And then one quick follow-up, how much easier was your job because O-line pride was in place and there was an understanding of the culture and what was needed? How much easier did that make it for you to come into this new place with new players?
Well, I think it gave you a foothold. It gave you something to kind of to lead with, right? We didn't have to create it from scratch. We had to kind of hone it a little bit, know what it meant. We had to add some value to it. But it did give you something to build upon, and I think that, and something that they generally cared about, right? That it was something that I think, Coach Buck has brought in when he was here, and, it's been around a while, but you've got guys playing, a guy playing the Super Bowl that was a part of building that too, and so now you have tradition. Now you're a part of something that does span, not just the last 3 months, right? It spans from a long time ago. So I think that's all, it just adds to the value of what that really means. And it was a good thing for those guys to make sure we continued that.